You've probably heard it your whole life. You're too quiet. You're overreacting. Why can't you just say what you mean? But what they never understood, what you were never able to explain, is that you do feel. You feel everything. You just don't always have the bridge between what's inside and what gets said out loud. You're not emotionless. You're flooded. And when someone asks what's wrong, you freeze. Not because there's nothing there, but because there's too much. It's like trying to pour an ocean through a straw. You feel the weight of a sentence someone said 3 years ago. You remember the way their tone shifted mid-conversation, and it's still lodged in your chest like glass. You walk into a room and immediately know something's off before a word is spoken. Your body reacts before your brain catches up. You go from "I'm okay" to complete shutdown in seconds, and you don't even know why. Other people brush off a comment, a look, a sound. You absorb it. You carry it. You internalize it. You feel things you can't explain, and when you try, it comes out clumsy or flat or wrong. So eventually, you stop trying. You go quiet. Not because you don't have anything to say, but because the effort to translate your inner world into their language feels like bleeding for nothing. They call you dramatic, but they've never lived inside a body where noise feels like static in your teeth. Where a simple question, "What's wrong?" can feel like a trap, not an invitation. Where crying makes you ashamed and speaking makes you panic. They think you're calm, but they don't see your hands clenched under the table, nails digging into skin just to stay grounded. They think you're distant, but they don't know how close you are to breaking, how hard you're working just to hold it all in. You learned early on that your emotions made people uncomfortable, so you buried them. You smiled. You nodded. You said "I'm fine" when you were unraveling. You learned how to perform normal, how to mask. You practiced eye contact in the mirror. You copied the way people laugh when they're supposed to. You mirrored expressions like a language you never quite understood, hoping one day it would feel natural. But it never did. Because pretending isn't belonging. It's survival. And survival is exhausting. You go home after being on all day and collapse. Lights off, phone face down, silence. Not because you want to be alone, but because even small talk costs more than anyone realizes. Because your nervous system is fried. Because masking for hours takes a toll they'll never see. And when the burnout comes, it comes hard. It's not just tiredness, it's numbness. You don't want to talk. You don't want to move. You don't want to explain again why just relax doesn't work. You're not being difficult. You're trying not to shatter. Some days you're a functioning adult. Other days brushing your teeth feels like climbing a mountain barefoot. You forget to eat, or you eat to feel something, or nothing tastes like anything anymore. You zone out mid-sentence. You can't read a message without rereading it 3 times and still feeling unsure of the tone. You replay a conversation from last week at 2 a.m., analyzing every pause and sigh, wondering what you missed. And still, people say, "But you're doing fine. You seem so put together." Because they don't see the cost. They don't see the crash that comes after the mask comes off. They don't see the moments you cry in the shower just so no one hears. The ones where you sit on your bedroom floor, unable to explain why your chest hurts. The ones where you scream into a pillow, not from rage, but from the pressure of being misunderstood for so long it started to feel physically. And worst of all, you don't know how to ask for help because you were taught not to need it. Because every time you tried, the words didn't come out right.
You don't need pity. You need presence. You need someone to sit with you in the silence and say, "I don't get it all, but I'm here." But that kind of safety, it's rare. So you learn to be your own safety. You began to unlearn the shame. You whisper to your younger self, you weren't too much. You were just in the wrong environment. You stop apologizing for your shutdowns. You start honoring your needs, leaving the party early, wearing the noise-canceling headphones, saying no without guilt. You don't force yourself to speak when your body says not now. You don't explain your boundaries like they're bad behavior. You start building a life that fits you, not one that punishes you for needing different things. And slowly, healing begins. It doesn't look like smiling more. It looks like being real, even when it's messy. It looks like feeling anger and letting it rise instead of swallowing it. It looks like stimming freely without shame. It looks like choosing silence on purpose, not out of fear. It looks like saying, I don't know how to talk about this right now, but I want to. It looks like trusting someone enough to sit in that pause with you. It looks like coming back to your body after years of leaving it behind to survive. You're not broken. You're not failing. You're not emotionless. You're just feeling in a world that taught you to numb. You're just learning to speak in a world that never gave you a language. And maybe they'll never fully understand you. Maybe no matter how many times you try to explain what it's like to feel too much but say too little, the words won't land. Not because you said it wrong, but because they don't have the nervous system, the history, the wiring to hear it right. That used to break you. Used to make you feel like if no one could reflect you back, maybe you didn't even exist. Maybe your pain wasn't real. Maybe your needs were too complicated, too invisible, too much trouble to even look at. So you shrank. You swallowed your instincts. You turned your volume down so low that sometimes even you stopped noticing you were still in the room. But now, something's shifting. You're still quiet, yes, but it's not the same kind of silence. This silence isn't collapse, it's clarity. This quiet is sacred. It's you, slowly learning to sit with yourself without flinching. You're no longer waiting for someone else to hand you a mirror. You've started holding your own. And some days still hit hard. There are mornings when you open your eyes and the weight is already there before you have even moved, a kind of tightness in the chest that you can't name. Like something important is about to be forgotten, or maybe already was. You lie there trying to remember who you're supposed to be today, which version of you fits the place you're about to enter, and the exhaustion begins before your feet touch the floor. Because being yourself still feels like a risk sometimes. Not because you're ashamed, but because the world still hasn't proven it knows what to do with you. You walk into a room and everyone's talking fast, laughing loud, hugging tight, and you feel like a foreigner in your own language. You want to join in. You want to feel like you belong. But your timing is off. Your face freezes. You say something that sounds fine in your head but lands with a strange silence. And suddenly you're spiraling. Did I say it wrong? Should I have smiled? Should I have said less or more? So you laugh with them. But it's not your laugh. It's the one you learn to use to keep from being asked if something's wrong. It's the one that makes you feel hollow afterward. And later, when you're alone in the bathroom or sitting in the dark, comes the crash, the shutdown, the retreat, the guilt. Guilt for needing recovery time after something so normal. Guilt for canceling again. Guilt for being the one who always seems to struggle with what comes easy for everyone else. That guilt is heavy, and it's quiet. It doesn't scream, it settles into your bones, your posture, the way you avoid mirrors. You try to explain it to someone. It's not that I don't care, it's that my mind gets flooded. They nod, but you can tell they don't really get it. So you go back inward. You retreat again. But this time something is different. Because now you're not blaming yourself. Now you're learning to recognize it as a nervous system response, not a personality flaw. You're learning to say, this is my threshold, this is my limit, and that's okay. You build your life quietly, carefully, like placing stones in a river, not for others to walk on, but so you can find your footing. And if today feels heavy, if your mouth won't move and your thoughts feel stuck underwater, know this isn't failure. This is you honoring what others taught you to ignore. This is you showing up in the way you always needed someone to show up for you. And if no one told you this yet, you don't need to fix how you feel. You just need space to feel it. This space, it's yours now. And if you come back here next week or next month or late one night when the world is too loud, I'll still be here. Still writing. Still carving out soft places for people like you to breathe. And maybe that's how we begin to feel less alone. Not by being understood completely, but by being welcomed anyway. And if something in this video made you feel a little less alone, even for a moment, maybe you'll want to come back. Not because I asked, not because you should, but because your body remembers what it feels like to be safe. There'll be more like this. And maybe next time, we'll talk about that kind of quiet anger no one sees, or the grief no one let you name, or the joy that scares you just as much as pain. If there's something you've been holding in your chest, some question, some story, some feeling that's been waiting for words, maybe leave it here. Or don't. Just know, I'll read it. And maybe next time, the video will begin with your voice.